everybody to Web3 Sales Gym. Today we have a new guest, Yaniv, CEO and founder of nReach. This is the company that I work for, so this is a double interesting conversation. Today we're going to talk about founder-led sales and how Web3 founders can sell more stuff. Primarily, nReach is doing a lot of good things for a lot of leading companies in Web3. We're helping them with their sales. We have some expertise and we have some words to tell you and share with you folks. So Yaniv, please welcome you to the show, and really happy and glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. The first question, a lot of founders in Web3, they come from a non-sales background, whether engineering, product, or they're like just super early in their sales stages. So, and immediately when you become founder, you need to become a pro salesman. First pitch VCs, then pitch potential users, customers, and B2C, B2B doesn't matter. So how do you streamline that process? How do you become a good seller in a very short and fast period of time?
It's actually, we've had my co-founder and I had that specific question when we decided on how to split the different roles between us. And one thing about sales is that you always have to think about the other person in front of you. And some would say that founders are the best sellers. But at the same time, like you probably seen me multiple times, we're the best givers. When I give a proposal to a client, I may be more generous than you are sometimes. And I'd be more towards the client, like than a salesperson be. And it all has to do with how founders perceive that value proposition. So it will first of all start out with always be fortifying, always be customer obsessed, be customer focused. If your customers are happy, you'll just sell. Like it will become a way easier sell. You wouldn't even have to think about it if your customers are there repeatedly getting the value, and from the get-go, you're very clear on what they're getting, how much you're willing to pay for it. And I think that has to do a lot with how Web3 founders should be looking at things, especially in a world where revenue is sometimes a weird word to be talking about. You always have to think about how much budget your prospect or your potential customer has to solve that problem. Show them the ROI that get from using you. And once the ROI is clear, I always say if you have a clear ROI, and then the sale should be very straightforward. It's either a make or break or a make or buy question. And that's where I like to position it. And I think that's where most Web3 founders, especially since we're now at the phase of building the picks and shovels of the space, need to position themselves. If you're must-have solution, then you'll see those repeatable sales as a founder happen. I'll finish up and I'll say I once heard one very top VC repeatedly saying about project and a company they invested in is that if a customer continuously uses the platform, they would end up paying. And all you have to do is set up the expectation to how much and make sure that they get the value of the product. So those are multiple of the best tips I can do. It may be, scary in the beginning to put that and say, all right, this is how much I'm charging. But it's really, really important to make sure that you do that from the get-go to make sure that, you're not working for nothing.
True. That's like we do these things for profit and for making the world better. But the question here is, in the beginning, how do you make this product so good that it's going to be bringing ROI back? I think it's like inevitably you need to do a lot of product development and you need to get a lot of feedback from the market to understand what kind of product the market needs in order to fix their problems and build that kind of product that would help you sell in that way that you just described. So how do you go about product gathering, feedback gathering, talking with users, understanding what kind of product thing you need to build and develop your product in the right stream that's going to help you sell?
My opinion on this one, actually, we've made a mistake early on where we trusted and we went on that strategy. Let's get design partners that would help you understand better what to build and how. And one thing we understood like 6 months in is that if you're not selling and somebody's not paying for your platform, then the value and the feedback they're giving you are not good enough. And you really, like our first paying customers, even though they didn't pay as much as the current customers are paying, but they believed in the vision, they understood where the vision is going, they understood where the product's going, and they had that belief that nReach can solve a huge pain. And I think that's the key thing. I don't think that if today we were to start again, we will fake it till we make it until we have those first paying customers. Not even paying, how much you're paying us today. Just pay us $50, $100, $200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Pay something just to prove and help us improve the product over time. Because once the credit card, once the payment part's in, then it all becomes completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's my number one recommendation for Web3 founders is get that credit card in as soon as possible and don't give yourself for free. Because if a product's free, then there's feedback you're not getting. But when somebody puts the credit card in and actually pays for something, they have the demands, they have way more demands, they have way more requests.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I would focus really early on. And I'm saying it for, with complete transparency that we've made a mistake. We, as founders, as early stage founders or like engineering teams, we decided to, not charge early on and go with design partners. And I think that has led us on like tremendously.
I think that's the moment when they start paying, the energy just starts flowing differently.
Oof. The number of requests we're getting, and you're seeing that because you're in all the groups, from paying customers compared to and I'm comparing it to when we didn't have paying customers. Completely different in terms of R&D, completely different in terms of focus. Paying customers are actually focusing on the right thing. By the way, it also becomes an issue once we get to where we're at, and then where we were a few months back when you grow to like tens or even more clients. Suddenly, you get to those questions of how do I prioritize? Which tasks or which product decisions should I do and which product decisions I shouldn't do? Because clients would come to you with anything they need. And the Web3 has a lot of needs these days.
That's true. A lot of things needs to be built. So how do you go about the prioritization when you have sales activities, like you have sales calls when you're, let's say you're a founder in a company and you're the one-man shop that's doing everything, a bit of marketing, a bit of sales, a bit of product, and needs to stay on and control everything. So how do you know what to prioritize and when, and how not to like gets it's like how to do this consistently, because I think that if you do not have any frameworks from preventing yourself from burning out, then eventually you will burn out. Like, what's your take on that?
So I'll start with your first part, which is I have a saying in the company, and you've heard it multiple times, that the pipeline is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you generate more pipeline and you close more deals, then you'll be fine. You'll know how to prioritize product because you'll have no other choice, and you'll know how to prioritize engineering because you'll have no other choice. But if you
Mm-hmm.
don't prioritize sales and pipeline generation, then this whole company or the whole rhythm would not play. Think of it, the way I like to think about it is, when you've got a band, you have somebody that's leading the band.
Yeah.
That's what sales is. Sales need to make sure that you continuously pump more money into the
Mm-hmm.
business to make it running and to
Mm-hmm.
make the band play in the right direction. And once those sales customers come in, the band will play in the right direction.
Sounds good. Yeah, this is the kind of advice that I always give to people that watch this channel for a long time. Pipeline is king. Like, if you have any kind of problems in sales, like for example, your
Yeah.
closing rate is not enough, just put more leads on top of the funnel, and eventually you're gonna deal with it. Just do more prospecting. Just have more people on top. Continuously add them. It's just the same thing here in the business. Just have sales, and sales are gonna be like the bloodline system, like a heart.
I completely agree. I'll tell you, you and I go through it every single week when we go through our weekly meeting. It's that, and I'll add one more thing. It's always make sure you know what your statistics are,
Yeah.
because over time, we're experiencing this together. You want your statistics to improve all the time, and make sure that from month over month, quarter over quarter, your ability to be closing deals just improves,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not declining over time.
Yeah. And how do you go about the moment when the founders, let's say this one founder that was doing everything, when is the moment that he realizes, okay, I probably need to get somebody to manage sales instead of me, and how do you get the person in place, because like you already know everything about your product and the person doesn't know anything, so how do you get them fast to the speed?
So you and I, again, have experienced this, but I think that the moment of getting the first sales hire is when you as a founder feel that you found that rhythm of repeatable sales. When by the time you get on that 20, 30, at 40, at 50 at call, you know exactly what your pitch is going to look like. You know exactly what questions you want to ask. It may not be perfect, but you know what answers you're expecting from the person in front of you. That's when you know that there is some kind of a playbook that you can teach another person because you found it. Now, I don't know whether to tell a company whether it's one client, two clients, five clients. You know, you joined us when we were 10 plus paying customers.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think like maybe I would have brought you even earlier on, but we really wanted to get that going, that rhythm of repeatable sales already starting. And I think that's when the first hire should start. And I think that the second hire, you know, should come right after the first hire actually learned the playbook.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you make sure that your first hire gets the playbook, is able to generate sales, able to hit their quota. And then once you see that, and you can release from the founder sales and actually enable your salesperson to start getting those sales cranking up, that's when I would bring the second sales or even the third sales hire, start building a team around it
Mm-hmm.
and enable more collaboration, just like we have today within our team.
You know, an often mistake I saw in the space is that the founder is building the product and then he fails in making the business model right. And then he thinks that, okay, I'm going to hire the salesperson who knows how to do this and they're going to fix it for me. It never works like that. And it's very, I just want to see the folks to see the difference between that model and the one that you just described.
Listen, there are always exceptions, right? But let's take the generic rule. Founders would always be the best ones to sell their company. That's just a fact. I mean, I live, I breathe, I go to sleep with nReach.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what time I go to sleep because we're in different time zones.
Now you don't sleep.
And
The first.
and you know, as especially in today's time, in today's economy, founders, there's no immediate fix. It's not like you can bring that sales hire, even if you bring the most amazing sales hire.
Mm-hmm.
If you as a founder are not able to scale repeatedly your product, there is a good chance that there's a problem with the product. So don't bring that salesperson and expect them to create magic because that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then as a last question, let's talk a bit more about the future because we have visibility into a lot of organizations. We see how do they do their sales, but also as a part of the product development and mission of the companies to think about how Web3 sales companies should sell better. So I want to give an understanding to everybody who's listening to this right now, how the sales in Web3 would look like in the future and what kind of measures those Web3 founders can do right now to prepare for the changes because the Web3 changes all the time. Like every 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
it's a different environment. So in sales, it also has a lot of impact on us. And there was an old school BD and there is a new school BD. So I want you to talk about this new school BD, what's going to be happening in the future.
You know, I think that the when we started nReach, we came with exactly that vision. You know, of how does the Web3 salespeople, like the Web3 go-to-market in general, should look like. And if you look forward, the sales world has been happening for over, you know, tens of years now in you know the standard industry. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
Web3 is inventing the wheel or anything. The biggest issue in Web3 is that we don't have the tools and what's needed to actually grow the sales and scale. So there are some compatible business models that are being created, but at the same time, when they want to scale up, when they want to after that initial product market fit moment, you want to hit more quota, or you want to do really good prospecting and lead gen, and they're missing those basic tools and basic understanding of how to manage their clients the right way, even though all of that was already invented years back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of maturity that the Web3 space is going into. And I think that the second part is the automated way of Web3. We're experiencing something extreme, you know, as salespeople or in general as business people in the Web3 space, that using a platform like Telegram as our main mean of communication you're expecting the person in front of you to respond immediately. And if they did not respond immediately, then you may have missed your chance, and who knows when you'll be able to get them again to chat. I mean, you and I see that all the time,
Yeah.
and that expectation of always streamlining that communication means that salespeople need to adjust. They need to adjust in how they think about sales. It's not like you send an email and you wait a day and then you get an email back. No, it needs to be a conversation. You need to build trust with the person in front of you. And I think that with the tools around the sales and the go-to-market teams that are developing, and obviously my thoughts that nReach is the market leader in that area, and that we're basically creating a new category in an emerging market. I think that we'll be able to lead where salespeople, marketing, customer success, or in general go-to-market need to grow. And yeah, I think it's like it's tremendous. I think the Web3 has a lot of differences from the Web2. But I was talking to a friend the other day, and at the end of the day, with the Web3, just we need to give them those tires that we're building right now for them to start driving faster as sales and go-to-market teams and maneuver in a much smoother way. And that's basically what we're doing here. Is we're building those wheels for the Web3 companies to actually move faster and
Good
be able to
knowledge.
sell faster. And yeah, that's basically it.
From my experience, I saw that like it's kind of like this old school train that has been running for the last 5 years, and it's like it's right now it's slowing down. Some people still think that this new thing automated they stop working, but there is like an emerging trend that is coming up with just doing more things efficiently. And over the time, the teams were like, especially in the beginning when you want to be lean, there is no point to hire 5 people to do everything manually
Oh,
like before in BD, like in Web3. That's like the main thing. When you just change those tires and just can go faster alone and extend the process and the
I completely
runway for
agree.
yourself. Okay, Yaniv, it was very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for finding a
Uh,
time to chat and
thank, thank
be
you
on the
for
Web3
having
studio.
me. Thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure. You know that.
Yeah,
And let's continue kick ass.
yeah, let's do that one.
Amazing.
Everybody,
Uh,
I'm gonna leave all the social links for Yaniv and for Inish below. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet, and see you in the next videos because there is even more value in the next videos. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.